Welcome back to this episode of Best Laid Plans of Mice and Jen. I'm Jennifer Villasenor, your host, and today we are discussing homeschooling with learning issues with my friend Grace Favatella. She is a fellow teacher at our Friday School Co-op and a fellow mom of struggling learners. Grace has 4 wonderful children, and she's also part of Bithiah's Family Services, which serves foster families as well as families in general, especially neuro-diverse families. Bithiah's Family Services offers trainings and support groups. Make sure to check out the show notes to find the link, as well as other resources mentioned in this episode. This is another long episode, so pop open a can of soda or 2, pour yourself a cup of coffee or tea, or maybe you're just gearing yourself up to wash those dishes or fold that laundry. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Welcome, Grace. I'm so glad you were able to join us today.
Grace, I've known you for probably 11, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah.
When did you come to Firm Foundation?
We pulled from public school. So we originally started with brick and mortar. And I really thought Tony would do well. And I was met with a very different result. We always knew he was super high energy. That was not a question. Very talkative, extremely verbal, constantly talking, like the kind of talking where they're like, you close the car door to stand outside and they're still talking. And you're like, I can't hear you. And they're like, still talking, full blown. They don't care. They're just talking. That was my Tony. So super high energy and lots of big ideas, lots of questions. And just, we always said that if he slowed down enough to actually stop, he would crash. And he would go, 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 go until he slowed down just enough and he would like fall asleep.
Wow.
Because it was just so much. And we were kind of faced with sort of a pickle. He was getting into lots of trouble. I think my first warning sign was when we walked into his kindergarten classroom and it wasn't set up. Coming from an education background, you have this sort of idea what a kindergarten classroom kind of should look like, bright things on the walls and colors and like the desks kind of together and like a morning area rug, it's kindergarten. It looked like a high school classroom. All of the desks faced forward. They were all separated. There was no posters, no color on the wall. It was very stark. It was very did you just start? Did you just come in? Like, where's your box of stuff? Can I help you? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And nope, that kind of was a pretty good reflection of like her learning of her teaching style.
Wow.
And not very accommodating to other learning styles. So my little guy ended up hiding under the desk. He didn't like it. He had a hard time making friends. He had a hard time keeping his hands to himself. So of course, the natural solution for them was to take away recess and take away lunch, recess, and make him eat his lunch by himself in the principal's office. And I think we finally pulled. There was a suspension. We honored the suspension. We took him back. And that very next day that he went back, he was back in the principal's office. And when I, spoke with the principal, he was like, well, he just can't seem to, get it together. And he was 5. And I was just thinking like, he's 5. Like, this is not okay. And I knew I had played with the idea of homeschooling, but I was very, very, very pregnant with my 3rd, and I was due to deliver in September. So I thought there's no way I can homeschool and be like, have literally a newborn.
Right.
And Lord had other plans. So we pulled him. He lasted less than 8 weeks, and we pulled him. And my very first call was to my sister, who was already homeschooling and at Firm Foundation PSP, when at that time it was a Sunlight still. And we pulled, and we have never looked back. And he thrived, and he loved it, and he loved school. And there were other things that we started to really notice. And I think that if I had not been homeschooling, I would not have seen these red flags, or they would have been sort of brushed under the rug and things like that. So I'm glad that, we asked for clarity in that decision, and the answer was very loud and clear, very loud and clear. And I'm very glad that we did that. We never looked back. It was never an option. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So what did you do before you had children?
So before I had my kids, I was actually a nursing major, Azusa Pacific.
Go Cougars.
I wanted so much to be a midwife. That was my big plan. I was going to be a nurse midwife. And my second year, I felt a very sudden tug to change to education, even though I had no desire to be a teacher at all. And I mean, at all. I was like, this is not for me. I do not want to do this. I want to deliver babies. I don't want to teach nobody nothing. And it was very loud and clear. And I say this often. Sometimes I don't always heed, the Lord's still voice. That one I did, and I'm glad that I did. So I switched to education, and my focus ended up being special education.
Wow.
So, and I was a tutor, and I worked all through college, and I was a remedial teacher for Bonita Unified for a couple of years, which I loved. And it just kind of exploded from then. I was a military wife, so I didn't work for a very long time. And when I finally went back to work, I went back to tutoring, and I realized I had a way with the kids that were quote unquote, the bad kids, the remedial kids, the kids that they didn't get it and they were behind. And I was like, give them to me, give them all to me. So, and I really enjoyed that for a long time. And I did that for a little while. And then I took a break to, mom and stuff like that. When I went back to work, I finally went back to work at Bithiah's.
Okay.
And
can you explain what Bithiah's is?
Yes. So Bithiah's Family Services was first and originally called Bithiah's House. It's a nonprofit that was started by Keith and Michelle Thompson. They themselves were foster parents, and they basically just saw a need. There was so much of a need that they couldn't possibly fill it themselves. So they actually opened up a residential facility, and it was like a home for age 0 to 5. For little ones who needed to be placed, but they could not find placements because of medical need, or the behavioral and trauma was just too high. So they came to the house to have some stability, work on some skills, get exceptional care. And the house did close, and it just sort of transitioned into Bithiah's Family Services. So now the mission is still to reach foster youth and foster youth that's getting ready to age out.
Oh, wow.
And support for foster parents. And they do big retreat every year for foster, kinship, and adoptive parents. And we do classes, and we do baby showers for pregnant foster youth, because a lot of times people assume that baby will be removed, and that's actually not the case. Baby gets to stay unless there's an absolute reason for baby to be removed from their mom. So we try to support the mommy by giving her lots of love and support, and throwing her a beautiful baby shower that she's not alone, and support also for the foster family who she's with, because they not only now have a teenager, but a teen mom with them also. So that's a big undertaking. So we do Bithiah's Family Services wears a lot of hats. But that is the main mission on top of, we also do a trauma-informed classroom education for educators. So you'd be surprised how high the population is of foster children in the school systems.
Yeah.
And when you have a child with trauma, learning is different.
Yes, it is.
The brain is different. So trying to educate educators on how that works and how to reach their students the best way.
That's awesome.
We do.
And when I was in the public school, teaching in the public school, and I did that for 9 years, I was not prepared to deal with any of that.
Right.
In fact, I didn't even understand the depth of difficulty that a child with a learning disability had until I had my own daughter.
Yeah. It's eye-opening.
I didn't know. And
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
Every episode, I think I cry, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
But
Because we're real.
Yeah.
We're real people. Yes.
Yeah, we have feelings. And when I think about some of the kids that I may not have been as compassionate with, mostly because I was just trying to figure out what I was doing, especially when I was a brand new teacher. I was in Rialto.
You're in my neck of the woods. This is not an easy district, girl.
And it was when it first opened up. So there was a lot of new people coming out there from downtown LA, and a lot of people leaving the city to go out to Rialto. And the socioeconomic situation was not the best. And it was really hard. And I was 22 years old. And I had one class about special ed that I don't remember any of it. Except I saw a movie. That's it.
Yeah.
And so the people in education, unfortunately, are, unless you are a special ed teacher, and even then, I don't know, you're woefully underprepared to deal with that population. Man, though, but when we have our own babies with that, it really, at least for me, it completely changed my perception of so many things. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how many children do you have?
I have 4 kids. My eldest is a sophomore, and he's doing really well. And he was my first, and he's the one that made me a mom and turned my hair green from the beginning. And he's really fantastic. He's I know everyone has horror stories of their teenagers. I can't really complain. I mean, he's still a teenager, he's still teen, but he's a pretty great teen. So I'm very thankful for him. He's the one that opened the doors as far as learning disability in my own home. So dyslexia and severe ADHD and all of that stuff. And it really does, it kind of turns your world upside down when you are finally realizing school's not going to look quite what I thought it was going to look like. And even though I had a background in special education, I had a background in, dealing with and tutoring and getting kids up, quote unquote, up to speed, whose ever speed that is, I don't know. It still, it still felt very, lonely. Yeah. To be honest, felt very lonely because other kids were, they were gobbling up books and mine was, struggling. And I thought, what is going on here? And as an educator, I should be able to handle this as an educator. You feel like I should be able to do this. And it's a little bit different when it's in your own. But I head first into every piece of research that I could find. We found an exceptional resource for him. And we dove headfirst in it to meet him where he was at, not where we thought he was supposed to be, but where he was at. That was a big shift for me with him, is finding where he was at. My second born is Maximal. He's just turned that teen corner. He just turned 13. And he is my autistic child, and also ADHD on top of that umbrella, or under that umbrella as well. He has a lot of sensory issues, which are common with most autistics, and dyslexic as well. And then he's amazing. He's got a ton of services. He gets a lot of accommodations, and it's a lot of reminding him of it's not quite, you can't quite compare yourself, even comparing himself to his older sibling. You really can't. You're totally different. You learn different. You have different interests. You have different gifts. Max is exceptional in his large motor skills. So seeing that kid jump and flip, and it literally defies gravity. It is unreal. He's my adrenaline junkie. He loves, inks and hard rock, and he's got long hair, and he hates wearing shoes, and in the summer he never has a shirt on, and he's just my wild boy, and I love him so much. And then after Maxima, we have Francis. Our our sweet Francis. He's my artistic boy. He's very sensitive. He loves animals and good music and all the bakery cookies and warm bread and like teas and hot chocolates. And he fits his name so perfectly. It's ridiculous. And he's just my sweet, sweet boy. He has an incredible artistic gift and with creativity, and he's got an eye for photography and just sort of that kind of thing. And then Rosalie's our baby. She was a surprise. We thought we were all done, and here comes after 3 boys. We thought for sure the next one was going to be a boy. What else, So we were very pleasantly surprised, and she's been a lot of fun. She was born with a very rare medical condition called craniosynostosis, where her ridges in her skull fused before they were ready. So she had to have a very big surgery called a cranial vault remodel and a frontal orbital advancement at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And it was successful, and she's doing very well. And we're so thankful to be in this country where we can have this medical, this isn't something that is routine. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
right.
This, they literally, without being too graphic, they, had to basically like cut her head open and crack the top of her skull off and pull the front of her face down and make it like a puzzle, and then put it all back together with, bolts and things like that to make sure that her brain had enough room, because her brain didn't have room to grow when those sutures are fused. So that was a fun couple of years, man. I was like, oh man, it's just, when your phone automatically connects to the hospital Wi-Fi, as soon as you pull in the parking lot, you're there a lot.
Yeah.
We were there a lot.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And she's doing great. Lots of signs of, she's in first grade, but lots of similar little signs. So I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be 4 for 4. 4 for 4 dyslexics. That'll do it. And it was just one of those like, really?
Perfect score.
Perfect. I should play the lotto or something. Come on. So, but it's been a lot of fun. She learns differently as well. She's very hands-on. This girl, it has serious, what's that called? If it's not like super exciting, all the bells and whistle, girl want nothing to do with it. So if we do an activity, it's got to be like, you are on. I mean, kindergarten teachers, preschool teachers, even first grade, that feeling when you were like jazz hands over phonics, and it's like do the dance with the number line. And so like, other than that, she's like, nah, I'm not into it. Like, you got to amp it up a bit more for her. And she's a lot of fun, and she's the girl. She's the only little one. She's the girl and gets her way. She's got 3 big brothers, and forget about it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot to carry and go through and wade through and figure out. And
yes.
that is something.
It is. It's kind of cool to look back and be like, how did we do that? It was God, man. It was God all the way. There is no other explanation. People are like, how? I'm like, Jesus. It was Jesus. I don't know what else to tell you. It was Jesus and caffeine. That was it.
Sometimes that's really all you need.
Yeah.
It's true. So, okay. So, well, let's kind of go through the questions, and then, and wherever you want to take this, whatever resources you also might have, let me know what they are, and I can link them in the show notes. So that way they can have access to maybe some books, maybe some websites.
Absolutely.
And definitely to, how do you say it again?
Bithiah's Family Services.
Bithiah's Family Services.
Absolutely. And follow us on Instagram.
Awesome.
That's the best way to find out what's happening, what classes, and it's all there.
So what inspires you right now, like for homeschooling? Like what inspired you to start, and what inspires you now? Like, is it the same? Has it changed?
It didn't. I wasn't inspired to start. I was very scared to start.
Mm-hmm.
I think once I saw that my kid was not the weird one, that he was not the bad one, that it wasn't him.
Right.
It wasn't him. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't him. It was a system that was very much built in a way to really not support him or children like him.
Right.
So it really wasn't, this is not a my kid issue. This is a system issue. And right now my focus is my child, not the system. So we'll just start there. So I really wanted him to feel successful. And so that's why I sought out, we sought out an incredible reading specialist. I will forever be so grateful to her. Her name is Melinda Pina, like the pineapple, Pina.
Mm-hmm.
She has, I hope she still has, I think she still does. She's in Whittier, California, and she has a place called Pina Reading Academy. And she's phenomenal and trained in dyslexia and dysgraphia and all of it. And she was fantastic for her and for Max early on. And we're so grateful to her. And that was weekly, driving out to Whittier multiple times a week.
Yeah.
For him to see her, because I knew I was limited in what I could do. And I also did not want to, you can absolutely, lots of parents do take on that role of teacher, of being their sole teacher. But I found that I was butting heads with him. And so I needed to outsource that because I wanted to preserve that relationship. And I needed help.
Yeah. And now, and I know that, so a lot of people who go into homeschooling, a lot of times, we're used to the school paying for everything, right?
Yeah.
So when did you, were you on your own at this time, or were you with the charter?
We were with the charter. So as soon as we got out, we pulled out, we were on the waiting list. And in the state of California, you don't actually technically have to be enrolled in kindergarten.
Yep.
You actually don't have to be. Not till first grade. So I knew we were not in danger of anything, wasn't breaking any laws, nothing like that. My kid wasn't going to be marked truant. No one's going to come for me. So I had a little bit of time, and I was on the waiting list for a little while. So for first grade, we got with a charter school and we started services right away with her. And we had him evaluated for a medical 504 pretty soon after that. And we went that route. I know that had we, and again, I think it was a God thing. At the time, we probably would not have been able to financially do the Reading Academy ourselves. However, I knew that I had, if I did not have that availability, I know that I could have. Would it have been difficult? Yes. Would have been worth it? Yes. So it is doable. There's resources, there's other groups. You could always trade with another mom. That's a big one that I found very, very helpful. I'm very good at certain things. Other moms are very good at certain things. Neither of you can afford a tutor. Trade services.
Yep.
Help each other out. I can teach art. I can help with math. If someone can help me with this end, that would be great. Trade. Help each other out. That's okay. We're a village. Yep.
There's always a way.
Yeah, there's a way. There was always a way. So that was what it, when he started reading, I actually had a memory in your Facebook memories pop up of him finally reading a book and by himself unprompted. And I remember crying. He was like, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, you're reading. I couldn't. I know you understand just that unbelievable joy of just my baby is reading. And it just changed everything. So from there, it was like, let's just move forward at his pace. And what inspires me now is the same thing. Seeing those little victories, though, that keeps me going. When those aha moments happen, that keeps me going. The fact that my kid, pat on the shoulder to you, just got done reading Uncle Tom's Cabin, which is not an easy read.
No, it's not.
Yo, like it's not an
Sorry,
easy,
but not sorry.
yeah, sorry, but not sorry. And it stretched him, and I could hear him, and then listening to things, the fact that he had always had, at Friday school and things like that, everything was always accommodated to him. And the fact that he has an audio availability to him, it changes the game.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. It kind of puts them on an even playing field. It really does. And some people are like, well, he gets an advantage, and it's not quite an advantage, dude. Like it's not quite. It's like I'm gonna take your glasses from you,
yeah,
and say, well, you get an advantage because you need glasses. Not quite, because I can't see without them. I can't see. So we come, and at least in our home, and what I firmly believe in is that you would never deny someone glasses. You would never deny someone, a service, or like a wheelchair, or something to help them walk or stabilize, or you would never deny someone like an inhaler. I think one of the best things I ever read was, it was on Instagram. It was absolutely hysterical. And he was like, telling a dyslexic to sound it out is like telling someone with a peanut allergy to chew slower. It makes no sense. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Not at all. People who say that have no concept of the way that the brain is wired, how it works, all of that. And they sometimes just see dyslexia as it's just reading. There's so much more. That's like just one little part of it. There's so much more that goes with it. So there's definitely a misunderstanding for sure with dyslexia. So those aha moments, they keep me going day to day. We have hard days. I'm not going to lie to you. We have days where we are like, everyone needs space. Everybody needs Jesus. We need to stop doing school right away. But then we have those days where we have those aha moments, where they understand the poetry passage, where they remember the vocabulary word, where they use the vocabulary word correctly. I'll never forget the day Aaron and I, we have a lot of probably TMI. We have a lot of conversations in the bathroom, because that's the one place we can talk privately and we're not having like anyone interrupt us, right? Because we're in the bathroom. So we're speaking in the bathroom, and of course we get barged in on because children, right? And Max came in, and Aaron asked him how his day was, and Max used sarcasm for the first time in his life correctly. And we were like, oh! And he was like, wait, like he thought he was in trouble. And we were like, first of all, that may have been a little rude. However, you used that correctly. Like it was, and I couldn't wait to tell his speech therapist that he had used sarcasm correctly. And it was one of those moments I was like, we're getting there. Yeah. We're getting there. Slow and steady, but we are getting there.
Yeah. And it's we are so used to a kindergarten to 12th grade. This is what they need to know at first grade. This is what they need to know at second grade. We need this, and then if you don't meet these standards, then you have missed the mark. So you failed, yes, or you're not good enough, or you are behind, or whatever. And EIE in Monrovia, yes, I used to go there a lot, and I remember them saying they're where they need to be. Yes, they are where they need to be. And they will get to the point where they need to be. And they're just where they are. Yeah, they'll get there.
They'll get there.
They'll get there. And that was such, again, especially coming from education, you had this, it's supposed to be like this. And it's such a change in mindset. And I'm so grateful for that, because we would be pulling our hair out all the time and our kids would be miserable. Right. And what's the point of having miserable kids?
Right.
There isn't one.
Let's not do that. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins in that case. And so learning to understand that our kids are very unique in general. They're very unique. which is kind of an oxymoron, but they're very unique, and they have their own learning styles. They have their own way of doing it. And they might have different situations, like different issues to deal with. So you have the dyslexia and all four for four. Congrats.
4 for 4. Thank you much.
You're welcome. And then you also have autism, ADHD. You have lots of fun things going on.
Oh, so fun.
How in the world can anybody, why would we expect for kids to be at a certain level at a certain time? Everyone at the, it's just mind-blowing to me.
It's unreasonable. It's unrealistic. It's a very unrealistic expectation. It really is. I think I have to remind myself, and I have a lot of friends who homeschool, and they still, well, what about, the standards, and you have to be, the same. It's the same kind of question. I have to remind them. I was like, the standards were created by a middle-aged white man who wanted very much everyone to be kind of learning the same thing so they could be ready to be on the factory floor about around the same age. You really need to go back and really learn, why did we go from the very beginning of schooling children at home, you know what I mean, under, with our mothers, their mothers and grandmothers, and they, teaching children at home, to suddenly going to school. And then, but before, if you have to think about it, it was, it was a lot of mixed ages in the little schoolhouses. You had little ones, you had older ones, and things like that. And then they started to separate them even further. And the reason why was because they needed to filter out the older ones, because they needed to start going to work.
Right.
So they needed certain skills to work, in the factories and then the fields and things like that. And if you were even fortunate enough to even be able to have an education.
Right.
You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. So you really have to de-school your mentality when you homeschool.
Yes.
So, and I even recommend sometimes, if you are really still having a hard, well, what about the standards? What about the testing? And what, you know what I mean? You might need time to de-school yourself before you really start to do this to your kid. Really do that. Think back. What is the purpose? What are your goals for that year? Reasonable goals. My kid's, 7. What are my reasonable goals? Are they your goals? Are they the goals for, your child? Or are your goals kind of still based on those state standard expectations? Like, really ask yourself. So at the beginning of the school year, I asked my kids, what's something that you are excited to learn about this year, that you would like to learn about? And sometimes it's animals, sometimes it's graphic design. I think Rose was like carpentry or something like that. It was like, sure. Then I know, hey, let's throw in some fun animal units. So we can throw in books about animals, make sure we get some of those. You can learn about a kid is going to be so much more willing to learn across the board on all subjects if it's something that interests them. You can tailor everything to their interests, which is going to pique their willingness and you can, everything is so flexible.
Yeah.
But you have to really get out of the mindset that it has to be this book at this age level.
Right.
It's not quite right.
Yeah. There's a lot of freedom in the homeschooling, which is one of the things that I think it's it's the favorite part.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, you don't have to tell me what to do.
Yeah. I like that.
Don't tell me what my kid needs to know at a certain time, because I'm sitting here with my kid and we're not going to get to do that.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen without a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I'm just talking about myself.
Not even them.
They would be beyond that. I mean, and we had some similar situations, like you mentioned about hiding under the table. I mean, even like in the early years when I first started homeschooling, that would happen with my girl. And I didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
I did not know that she was even having issues. And so
we didn't either. For some reason, they didn't want to let me know.
Oh, that's
it wasn't until later on.
Now, we always homeschooled, so she was never in public school. So this was all new to me. And I taught high school. And I've said this before, that but teaching high school kids, like Uncle Tom's Cabin or
Mhm.
Jane Eyre or Pride and Prejudice is very different
Very different.
than teaching a child how to read. And so
Yes.
I just thought I was sucked at this. I thought I was just really awful
Right.
at teaching this, but she had these issues. And so, and we also found a person who was really helpful. And that was Cynthia DePello. I think that's her name. Yeah, Cynthia DePello. And she was our reading specialist that helped us tremendously. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I think the deschooling thing, I can't really emphasize that enough, because we have been so conditioned. Yes, that's a good word. We've been so conditioned that this is the way it's supposed to be. And so, I think we all started out as like rebels back in the day, saying, oh, no, I don't have to be like that.
Yep.
And one of the reasons why I even started this podcast is because of the influx of new families coming in to homeschooling, because of these things that are happening right now that are being kind of foisted on to families that they're not comfortable with. And so they're also part of the rebel cause.
Yes.
And one of the things that I love about homeschooling, especially as community begins to happen, and in our case it was through Firm Foundation, and how we do find the things that our other moms are strong in, and they help. You and I have often had a conversation. Okay, what did you do here? What did you do here? How did you handle this? How do we handle this? And I'm very grateful for that community. And and I think it's really important that people who are coming into homeschooling, I think I'm going to beat the heads of people, because I keep saying this, community is super important. Like, the whole last episode is all about community. And it's just super important, especially when you have the special learning issues, because that is a whole other animal. And like you said, it was kind of lonely. Even if you know other people who might have the same situation, it's still hard to juggle that and understand how to handle it. So now let's see, anything you want to say? Because I'm looking at, and we kind of covered some of this stuff, but I don't know if you want to go more in depth in any of the questions.
I don't have them in front of me.
Okay, let's see. So what is something you wish you had known before you started homeschooling?
I wish I had known that, I think we already covered this, but that we don't have to look like everybody else. And I wish I had known that it's okay to not look like everyone else, and that I got a lot of strange looks because when you take your kids to the grocery store in the middle of the day and they're like, why aren't you in school? Do you know what I mean? Like I was not prepared for questions from adults. How many adults were really like kind of shocked and kind of a little bit put off and like, why? And we homeschooled. The school doesn't have to look like public school. You don't have to sit at a desk. You don't have to be there for 7 hours. Your trip to the grocery store could very well be your math lesson for that day, and that's great. So it just depends. It does not. It took a little while for me to realize, like, wait a minute, this can look however I want it to look. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really can. And I wish I had known to meal prep better. Certain things to really help myself. Instead of like scrambling, that kind of rush feeling. Now, things that I know now as like a seasoned, whatever, homeschooler, but 11 years in, is just being able, you know what? Your crock pot is your best friend. Your Instapot, pack your lunches. Do you know what I mean? Like, help yourself. Especially if you are, especially if you have a lot of like services. If you're running, if you've got like OT, speech, and you're in the car a lot, audiobooks, certain things like that, I feel like help to have. I wish I would have had someone kind of come alongside me and be like, hey, this might not be homeschool related, but this is kind of homeschool mom related. This is how you make this kind of, so you're not banging your head against the wall at the end of the day, because you realize you're so exhausted from all these beautiful, wonderful teachable moments, throughout your day. You still have dinner to make. Do you know what I mean? You still have laundry to do. You still have a home to run.
Right.
So that kind of thing. So I wish I would have had someone to kind of go. So anytime I always tell people, meal prep, plan your menu, make sure you have snacks in your car.
Yeah.
Do you know what it just saves you, it saves you a little bit of a headache, and a hungry kiddo, a hungry mommy are not ready to, learn or be kind or receptive to those kinds of things.
Ain't that the
I wish I would have had that. I really wish I would have known a little bit more about that. So anytime I have a chance to impart that wisdom on a new homeschool, please, your library is your best friend. Get to know your librarians very well. You gotta hang on to those resources, and
awesome.
Help yourself.
That is a fantastic homeschool hack in a
Yes.
sense, because my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meal prepping, having lunch and dinner, because there's they eat every day.
All day.
Several times a day. Yes.
I think the thing I say the most, get out of the pantry. Close the refrigerator. Yeah. But I will say, when you are at the table and we're doing stuff, hey man, I'm constantly, pop popcorn and put it down, and, apple slices and bring it down. It keeps them going, man. It keeps their sugar from crashing.
Yeah.
There's snacks in school go very well together.
Yeah. Yep.
No one really talks about the emotional and mental load that you carry from being home all day with your kids. Yeah. And I know that it's like a weird thing, because you love being home with your kids. It's such a blessing to be home with our kids. We have relationships with our children that other people don't have.
That's correct.
A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people don't have it. Because a lot of them, their kids, and some people have really great relationships, even though their kids go to school, but they're gone all day. Mm-hmm. And my kids are home all day. So I am up your butt. I can hear when your cell phone goes off. I know who you're texting. I know what you're watching. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I know what you're listening to. My hands are there to kind of guide and direct, and, things like that. Other people have no clue. We talk to each other all day, every day, but we talk to each other all day, every day. Yes. Do you know, I'm constantly being touched. I have with my Max, I can't really leave him at the table to do independent work without him shiny. Do you know what I mean? Like something distracted him. So I really have to be on top of, even if I'm doing something in the kitchen, I'm right there. Hey, good job. Next problem. Good job. You're doing great. And then it's a constant thing. So I think I have to literally turn my brain off.
Yeah.
And I need space. And I think a lot of times there's a little bit of burnout that happens with a lot of homeschool moms, because it's so exhausting, because you're so emotionally invested and mentally, but you have to relearn things that you didn't think you'd have to relearn, or explain things in a different way that you learned it so that they can understand it. It's very mentally taxing. So I think self-care isn't talked about, and mental health isn't talked about a lot in the homeschool community. And I think it very much needs to be, because self-care for a homeschool family is very important. You need to make sure you're filling your own cup. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
You just cannot. So if that means you take space and dad has to do bedtime routine, then that's what that means. If that means you have to wake up crazy early so that you have silence in the morning and you don't, before people start touching you, then that's what that means. You have to, and like I said, you have to help yourself. If it means that I don't want to think about dinner, put your dinner in the crock pot, put it in the Instapot, so you don't have to think about it. So you can sit and watch a mindless TV show for a second, or watch or read your book for a second. Take your space.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're with our kids so much all day, every day. It can be draining, and we need to make sure that we're filling our cup. Women's Bible study, a prayer group, support group, girlfriends, time with your husband without being interrupted. Get in the car, talk in the car. So at least you're not interrupted in the car.
Mhm.
Do what you need to do to make sure that your cup is full. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't. That's a
so
big
good.
one.
So good. Yeah. So that would kind of cover the advice you would give new homeschoolers, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Very cool. Okay. So what is your coping mechanism? Like what do you do when the day is rough? Like I shared with you, I go to Del Taco and get a matcha Diet Coke. Get in the car. Mommy needs another one.
Yes.
Yeah. What is yours?
I take space in my sanctuary. I have like my warming like stuff. If it's at the end of the day, if it's depending on the season, I will go outside and I will work in my garden. So my garden is something I love very, very much. I love my chickens as well, but my garden fills me up big time. I just love being able to look and see like all my hard work. I can visually see this. I can visually see this. And sometimes I can see there's, the stinking gopher is back and it's eating all of my whatever, and then that's fine. But at least I can visually see. Sometimes it's like the homeschool sleeper. Like you're laying down all this work, but you're not really seeing it just yet. But it's there.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged. It is there. Step by step is there, but you don't automatically see it. Sometimes you have an aha moment. Sometimes the aha moments take a little while to get there. My garden, I can see it. Yeah. It's there. It's kind of a nice reminder, but it's also a nice reminder that things take time. Yeah. I'm going to stick that seed in the ground and I got to wait, man. That sunshine's got to come down. I have to water it. Sometimes I have to protect it from a pest or vermin or things like that, but I can see it. It's there. It's a very nice reminder. And plus the sunshine and the air, it fills me up big time, big time. You have your community. My sister's my go-to, my bad day, my hard day, my good day, my victory, my questions. You have to have one person that you just, that's your person, and she's my person for sure. Absolutely.
That cheers on with you.
Yes. And cries with you. Yep. And you have to do that, but definitely take space. I need space. I get touched out. And I get a lot of like sensory overload sometimes, like with the constant noise, because there's 6 people in a very small house, and there's animals and doors opening and closing all day long. Like it can be overwhelming for me. So being able to retreat, and just, this is my space, respect my space.
Yeah.
So in our home, we respect space. If someone needs space, even though there's someone sharing a room, everyone's sharing rooms because we're not millionaires. Everyone shares rooms. If someone is in their room and they're asking for space, you need to respect their space.
Yeah.
You need to give them their space.
Yeah.
Respect their space. Even if it sets a time limit space, respect their space.
Right.
Give them time.
And by you also saying, I need my space, you're modeling to your children how to take care of yourself and how that can help them too, and a lot of the things that we do to help ourselves, our children are learning from us, and I think that's
co-regulation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You call that what do you
co-regulation? So like I can help you regulate yourself, but I'm also modeling regulation techniques for myself. If I'm upset, I tell my kids I'm upset. I don't hide my emotions from my kids. I'm getting really frustrated right now, so I need to take a deep breath. I need to take space. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Do you know what I mean? Like I need space. I need to calm down. I need to take some deep breaths. You want to take some deep breaths with me? All of that back, and I'm showing them regulation, being able to regulate my emotions, but also being able to show them by example, it's okay for you to feel frustrated. It's okay for you to feel sad. It's okay to feel all your feelings, because sometimes there's this assumption that we have to be like joyful all the time. It's like, no, this is hard. This morning we had a sweet moment. Francis was getting very frustrated with his math. He was not understanding a concept. And I told him, you need to take a deep breath. And sometimes my kids are resistant. They're like, and I'm like, well, that was a breath, but it wasn't like a cleansing breath. So let's try and like take a deep breath. And he's like breathing really hard out of his nose. And I was like, you know what? That's okay. I'm right here with you. Math is hard right now. This is it's okay for you to say, this is frustrating for me. I'm frustrated that I don't understand this. I'm frustrated that the picture that you drew is stupid and I don't understand it. Like, it's okay for you to say that. Would you like a hug? And he did. He like kind of was like, I don't like this. Like, I understand that you don't like this. Why don't we and he finally later on was like, I need a minute in my room. Absolutely. Take your minute in your room. He came back. He was like, I'm ready. I was like, okay, let's try again. Let's get something else out. Picture's not helping. Let's pull out stuff so we can like manipulate it, move things around so we can like, feel it with our hands. This is what this is. Yeah. That kind of thing. It was division. It was like, division is hard. It's hard. So, that's, I saw him like, we're getting there. On all the days where my kids don't want to co-regulate with me, they're like fighting me on it. This one, that was a win. I will take the win. That's all right, buddy.
It sounds like, and then you take the time with them to kind of process that, which is also something. I mean, we're all human, including our children. And our children, they feel the feels that we feel.
Yeah,
they do. And we have to give them that space to process that. Just like sometimes we need the space to process that. And I think it's beautiful how you process it together. I think that I've never heard of co-regulation. And apparently that's what we've been doing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that because as my kids have gotten older, there are moments when we're just like, okay, we need to just process. What's going on? What are you feeling? All right, let's talk this out. What can I do to help you through this?
Right. You're not alone. You're not alone.
Not alone. We're human.
Yeah.
And God gave us all these emotions and they serve a purpose.
Yes.
And to understand that, I think one of them is so that we realize how much we need him.
Yeah.
And also to realize that, as we go through these things, it helps us to get to the goal. It's part of the steps to get there. And that is okay. And that's so awesome. Of all the learning disabilities, it's not on the list, but we just thought of this right now. Of all of the learning disabilities, which one has been the most difficult to work with?
The hardest to watch has been the dyslexia. That's the hardest to witness because they want it so bad. They want it so bad. They want to read it so bad. And it just isn't happening. And it's not out of defiance. It's not out of intellect. It just, they want it. So it's like, it's right there. Come on. Like the speech and words, especially with maths, speech and words, and then being able to articulate and then reading that's been the most difficult to watch because you literally see them literally suffer through that, where they, when they're little, it's not as big of a deal when they're little. It's not that, but as they get older and they start to recognize it for themselves, that's hard. That's very hard to watch them see themselves as different. That's hard. We have always very much celebrated Max's autism. We always tell him, you do not have autism, you are autistic. We are a neurodiverse family. We believe very firmly that God created you exactly the way you are for a purpose. It was intentional. This was not a mistake. Correct. I'm sorry. What other people may say, that's very controversial. I understand. I love you. I will agree to disagree. And that's fine. So I firmly, my child was not a mistake. I didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. There is an intent and purpose in his creation, and God has a purpose for his life exactly how he is, exactly the way his brain was created. So you do not have autism. You are autistic. I don't have a Mexican. I am Mexican. I don't have a female. I am female. I am. So we established that from the very beginning. We've always shared diagnosis with our children. That way they can learn to advocate for themselves.
Yep.
A lot of times people are terrified of the label. I don't want my kid labeled. I don't want them labeled. That label is going to be your saving grace one day, because your child's going to be able to say, excuse me, I am dyslexic. I need accommodations. I have ADHD. This is an unreasonable expectation for me. Can we make accommodations so that I can succeed or do whatever? Even if you have like a mental health issue, if you struggle with anxiety, if you struggle with OCD or ODD, anything like that, or sensory processing disorder, being able to advocate for yourself and say, this is what I have. This is the way my brain is naturally wired. Mm-hmm. And I will learn how to help myself rather than like suffering through everything. And then, mental health goes down, the depression sets in because you feel so not enough.
Yeah.
And the reality is you are enough. You just need a little bit of help from either others, but mostly from yourself. Yeah. Help yourself. Yeah. If that means I know I'm getting overwhelmed because there's a lot of sensory stuff going on, being able to say, this is not a good idea for me. Like the lights and sounds or whatever are not good for me. I'm going to take a step back.
Yeah.
That's my big goal. Advocate for yourself, child.
Yeah.
We have always shared diagnosis with them. The hardest to manage in the home is the ADHD. That's the hard one to manage in the home because it's like the impulsiveness, that beautiful, wonderful impulsivity of ADHD. And at Bithiah's Family Service, I actually teach a class on parenting the neurodiverse, and it's a fantastic class. So when we do that one again, I highly recommend, if you have a neurodiverse child, to come to that class, because being able to understand how your child's brain is naturally wired changes everything.
Yeah.
Changes everything. You need to check your expectations. It's sometimes 90% of the time, it's not your kid, it's you.
Yeah.
You need to manage your expectations. You need to make a shift in, what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, and understanding that a child's brain isn't fully developed until age 25.
Yes.
They're not adults. They are not little adults. We are adults, and we struggle with like emotional regulation and impulsivity and that filter and, cognitive reasoning. And we struggle with that, and our brains are developed. Imagine for them, their brains are not completely fully developed yet. And we have the same expectation for them. Come on.
Yeah.
That's unreasonable. That's not fair. And the same thing, like I have bad days where my husband's like, have you eaten something? You need a Snickers bar or something, because you are man, oh man.
Franklin.
Man, oh man. Like,
remember that Snickers bar commercial?
Yes.
Like Aretha.
Yes. You're
Aretha, have a Snickers.
Have a Snickers. Oh, Lord. And I'm an adult. Do you know what I mean? Like as I'm allowed to have a bad day, my children are also allowed to have bad days.
Yes.
And it's okay to to kind of come alongside them. I understand today's a bad day, and that's okay. Sometimes you're sad for no reason. That's okay. I don't expect you to slap a fake smile on your face. You can say, I feel a little blue today. I don't know why. I feel a little blue today. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm right here with you. I don't love you any less. My expectation for you might change for the day, because, maybe that day's a not so heavy school day. Maybe that day's a let's watch a documentary and cuddle on the couch day. And that's school too, man. Like let's protect our our kids' mental health above their academics. Always.
Yeah.
Always.
It was interesting today. I had this random thought. It happens, and this thought came to me where it was like my goal for my children since they were little is that they would feel safe.
Yes.
And I realized the goal of them to be safe is not to protect them from everything, but that they would feel safe enough to be able to take risks.
Yeah.
And I thought, and as I'm listening to us talk and as I'm processing that thought, like we are giving them the tools and they're finding the safety. They're finding safety in taking the risk in a safe place, right?
Yes.
And then they build on that. And they build on that and they build on that, and I know that our kids are going to do great things. One of the things because Emma felt it very strongly when she was little, the difference. And it was very hard. And we came up with a mantra. I am special. I am important. And God has a plan for me.
Yep.
And to this day, she will be able to, when things get kind of rocky and things are kind of all wacky, she'll say, I know God made me this way for a reason.
Yeah.
I just wish I knew what it was.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? That's
me
fair.
too, kiddo.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's fair. That's fair. I totally get that. I wish I could tell you too, but you're going to figure this out and it's going to be okay. So, so you're with the charter school and you're able to get the services. And we talked about how there are other ways to make it work as well.
Yes.
Without a charter school. So, and with my story, the IEPs that the IEP that I had with Emma at the charter school was not actually addressing the actual issues of my daughter.
Right.
And the more I fought, the more they fought with me.
Right.
And it was very frustrating until I realized I don't have to do it this way.
Right.
And so, what I did is I pulled her out of the charter school and we're just with Firm Foundation as a PSP and just her. The other two are still in the charter. And, whereas the charter school has a certain amount of units that need to be met in order to graduate, the state of California has almost like 100 less units that you have to. So we're able to accommodate and make that work for us.
Right.
And so any parent that is just like, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to, we can make it work. And again, finding other moms that are dealing with the same things, we can give resources, we can give advice, we can show, what we've done, so on and so forth, but know that you're not bound by anything.
Right.
So when I finally pulled her out of the charter, turns out she only has 7 classes left to get a high school diploma in California.
Yeah.
And she has 2 years left in regular school to get that done. What freedom and the anxiety and frustration that she was dealing with, gone.
That's wonderful.
Instead of being constantly told you're not doing this right, you have to do it this way, or else you're not going to graduate. You're not going
anything.
To do
Yeah.
whatever.
It's like a fear tactic.
It was. And to be fair, that's kind of how we've all been conditioned.
Yes.
If you don't do this, then this isn't going to happen. And you should be afraid of that.
Yeah.
When, in reality, kids with ADHD and with dyslexia and with every other letter, whatever, can do great and amazing things. And so it's very exciting when that thumb that seems to be over our kids is lifted.
Yes.
And there's just this, like, they know that they're accepted and they are okay. And you almost want to tell them all the time they're special, except it gets to their heads. And so that's not always the best thing to do.
Who told you that? You're not a snowflake.
Yeah. But it's been beautiful to see. It's been really encouraging to see when those pressures are lifted and our kids can grow. And I have watched your children grow, and Tony's amazing. And he's just such a blessing in the class. He has deep thoughts sometimes. And and sometimes it kind of goes past everyone else. And I'm just like, dang, that was great. But it's awesome. And he's so good at he takes his stuff seriously. and his schoolwork seriously. And so as a teacher, I truly appreciate that.
Yeah. He works so hard, I will say, because what the average kiddo would take, maybe a couple of hours, it's double or triple for him.
Yeah.
With the ADHD and the dyslexia. So I know, and we've never set like a requirement of a grade ever on any of my kids. So we've always just your best.
Yeah.
Hey man, if your best is a C and you're like, hey man, I tried my best. Perfect. Great job. That's fantastic. If it's a B, then that's great. If that's an A, that's great. I'm not gonna love you anymore because you got an A, then you got it dumb. That doesn't matter to me. But when I do see those that effort put in, I know that he has put in the work.
Yeah.
I can genuinely say he tried his best.
Yeah.
I asked him that. Look yourself in the mirror. Can you honestly say, I tried my best? If you can, you're good job.
Yeah.
If you did your best or you did just enough. Today I did just enough for survival. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Let's just get there. If you're doing fine, you'll get there. You'll get there. So I know that he works hard, man. He has earned it. He's like scraping, so it's okay. It's okay that sometimes he's like, I'm like, hey, 6 hours, buddy. Like, where are you at? He's like, like,
but he never gives any excuses.
No
excuses.
That's one thing. I think that's one thing most people assume, or they assume I will accommodate you all day, every day, up and down. I will accommodate you. I will fight for every accommodation. However, you're still going to get it done.
Yeah.
You're still going to get it done. If it means we do our number line by you doing it outside of the chalk, with the chalk on the sidewalk chalk, and that's how you're gonna, do your numbers, that's fine with me, but you're still gonna do it. Yeah.
So the standard, or I don't want to use standard because then we go back to that concept,
yes.
But the bar, the bar is still in a place where you wouldn't say is less than others. It's just met differently.
It's met differently. Yes. It's just met differently. If that means, let's say we're doing like a poetry unit and you're having a really hard time with the poetry unit, then we listen to it on audio.
Yeah.
That's fine. I will read it out loud to you. That's fine. If you are not having a hard time visualizing like the setting of this story, I can pull that up. If there's a movie or a film, just to like kind of bring that, those adjectives to life, with that, seeing that movie clip. Hey man, let's remember that part. Comparing this to that, that's what we're going to do. The theme and like literary elements in novels and in language art studies, there's other ways to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's another way to do it. If that means that we do it through art, if it means that we do it through another, just to deepen your understanding, if that means before we read the novel, whatever, we do a little bit of historical background so that you have a little bit better understanding of this character in this time of history, then that's what that means. That's okay. If that means we only read half the novel or just excerpts from the novel, that's okay too.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people just assume you have to read the whole. You don't. You can take excerpts. Do you know what I mean? And work with those.
Yep.
Rather than shoving a whole novel
right.
down.
For example, Jane Eyre. It's a beautiful novel.
Oh, yeah.
I love that novel. I love
my favorites. Yep.
it. There is a lot of description about, grass, about flowers, like a lot. So I'm planning on doing that for my intro class next semester for intro, not for American, but for intro. And so I'm like, we're probably going to skip some pages because it's just a lot. And you still can get the essence of the story and the point of the story without knowing how many blades of grass there were and how many petals of roses. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's beautiful. And I don't understand this, but not everyone's an English major.
Yeah.
But it's true. And I have to respect that. We all bring something so beautiful to the table, just like our kids. We all bring things to the table that are meant to, complement each other. We don't have to overpower each other with all the description or whatever the case might be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but you're right. We're taking out the excerpts, and finding the point of it all, and realizing that the point of it is that we're raising these human beings to grow and to find success and to be prepared for this crazy world that we're in, especially for this season, for such a time as this.
Yep.
And it's really, it's exciting and terrifying all the very same time. But I know that with community and with, resources that we can share and all that kind of stuff, that it's an exciting time too.
Yes.
Very exciting time.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share before we close out?
I think I'm very excited for this one. We're actually gonna be doing a class on homeschooling the neurodiverse, homeschooling specifically the neurodiverse at Bithiah's Family Services. This one's actually going to be in person, so keep an eye out for that one. So we just want to encourage people to come. And I wanted for people to know, we know that our day doesn't have to look a certain way. And sometimes we have certain schedules and we have therapies or services that kind of takes over certain amounts of certain days. So the whole point and purpose of that one is just to be encouraged. It doesn't have to look a certain way. Your kid's still going to be learning. You do what's best for your child and their learning style. Sometimes it's hard to find out what our kids' learning style is. You might have like a teaching style where you feel more comfortable sort of just reading from like the teacher manual and you expect them to kind of like follow along with you, but not all kids learn that way. And certainly not our neurodiverse kiddos. So if that means you have to put on the show like I do for Rosie, or everything kind of has to be like manipulatives or like big movements, or do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Then that's what that means. So I think when you have a child who has a need, you are their very best teacher because you are their parent, their caregiver. So you really know them best. So my encouragement would be just don't get locked into this, the way that it has to look, that you're in a race with other kids, that you're in a race with other neurotypical children, because you're really not. You can't compare, and it's not fair to compare. I think sometimes we also have this really horrible, lovely, junky habit of holding like our identity or our value in what our kids are able to do. And that's not okay. So I think that needs to stop also. Like, my child does Latin. Good for you. Mine eats the Cheerios off the van floor. That's fine for me too. That kind of a thing where your child can do this, my child can do that, my child can't do this. Do you know what I mean? It's like this underground sort of feeling of competition, even within homeschoolers, that shouldn't really be there. And just don't be there. Your identity is in Christ and Christ alone.
Yep.
Your child's identity is in Christ and Christ alone. They are unique and special and created for a very intentional purpose for a time such as this. Do not be discouraged. If you need the assistance, ask and you shall receive. Make those requests very clearly known to the Lord, and you'd be surprised what's going to be brought, to your table, whether that's a friend, a community, a really great field trip, a new connection that you have with your child over something that you didn't have before. Do you know what I mean? Like, make those requests known, and to keep mindful of, we're supposed to be a little different, and that's okay. You're raising good humans. I always tell people I act like connection over academics. Always. Yes. Please, like, don't let the math textbook become between you and your kid. Like, just don't.
Right.
Don't do it. Throw out the textbook.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Do something else, change curriculums. It's okay. It's okay. If it's not working for you, it's not working. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people would want to know the types of curriculums that would go well with a neurodiverse child. And
Okay.
I
have, we use a lot of different things because I realized, if we use the same thing, like they get bored. They get bored of it. So, we have certain things we do on Mondays. We have certain things that we do on Tuesdays, and they don't overlap. The only thing that we do every single day without fail is math, and our like literature or like novel study that either whether we do an activity for it or we just reading chapters, or it's a read aloud, that doesn't get just for the reading part. Some sort of we alternate either between, like one day we do grammar, like a little grammar activity in grammar, and then the next day we do vocabulary. So I don't do the same thing. My kids need sort of like novelty, but they also need routine, which is why, Monday and Wednesday typically look the same. Tuesday typically looks like Tuesday, and then Thursday's a little bit different because we have services, and then we have Friday school. So it's a very fine balance. And of course we have to meet, sensory needs during the day, make sure everyone's getting wiggles out, make sure everyone's getting their tactile experiences in, all that stuff is happening. So we're kind of a circus over here, but it's a beautiful circus, and I'm very grateful for it because I know that they really are thriving. Do you know what I mean? Like if I feel like if they were in a different kind of setting, they would really not, they wouldn't be very happy. I can't imagine them being, so happy and,
and flourishing.
And doing
they
really
flourishing.
the best that they can.
They're and you can see it. And so good job, Mama, for heeding the call, and
glad I listened to that one.
And for taking the time to figure things out. Homeschooling does take a lot out of Mama, and it does. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And it's hard and it's exhausting and it's tiring, but God is faithful. And even when we kind of drop the ball here and there, we can pick it right back up.
Despite us, God has a plan despite us.
That's right.
You think I'm messing this up, nope. God's got them despite you.
That's right. And so I'm so thankful that we've been able to talk about all this. And I'm sure that you'll be back on with some more maybe targeted things in the future. And so where can people find you?
So people can find I on Bithiah's Family Services at Instagram. It's at Bithiah's Family Services. It is a mouthful.
Can you spell that?
Bithiahs Family Services.
Okay. And there'll be a link in the show notes.
Okay. Yes, but people don't know. People are sometimes wondering where the name Bithiah comes from. And it's actually really a great, Bithiah was Pharaoh's daughter who pulled Moses from the river.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So she was the first documented foster mother.
That is beautiful. I love that.
Isn't that great?
That is so awesome. Because it is a very unique name.
It is very
Every time I try to read it, I'm like, I don't know what that says.
Yeah. Some people say Bithiah, Bithiah.
Beautiful.
I don't know.
It's there. I love it. I love
that. Was her name and her faithfulness and her mother and his mother's faithfulness.
Yes.
And to ultimately be able to be the one at her side raising him. So it's pretty remarkable. So we have a ton of classes coming up. The Homeschooling, the Neurodiverse is coming up. We have connected parenting coming up. We just did a de-escalation. So in those, hard moments when your kid is always like losing it, how to manage that. We have some explosive behaviors. Sometimes our kids are just beside them, what the understanding of where that comes from. how to handle that calmly, respectfully. Yeah, we have a ton of classes. And we also have a special needs or neurodiverse parent support group.
Awesome.
And that's for anybody. If you have a kid with needs and you need a little bit of support or someone to talk to or someone who gets it, we meet monthly. Come on down. If you need a support group, if you need other moms who get it, other parents who get it, who know what it's like to have a child with a high need, any kind of high need. If your child has Down syndrome, if your child has ADHD, dyslexia, autism, anything like that, please come down. We are happy to support you and share our victories and share our sorrows and share the good, the bad, and just walk away, feeling encouraged and that you're not alone in this. There's quite a few that really would be happy to walk alongside. And so we do offer support groups. That way everyone, we talked about filling your cup. Hey man, if you need a support group, fill your cup. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
Homeschooling is
awesome.
hard.
Homeschooling is hard.
Having a child with a need is hard. Doing both is hard. You need Jesus and you need community. So we're happy to offer that community for sure.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us at Best Laid Plans of Mice and Jen. I guess we both had plans that we thought things would look a certain way, and here we are.
We are
not looking quite the same as we thought it would, but enjoying the moments and seeing how God has led us and is blessing us and our children through this. And so thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, friend.
That's all for this episode of Best Laid Plans of Mice and Jen. Make sure to check out the show notes for resources mentioned. Also, please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube if you haven't already. You can follow me on Instagram at Best Laid Plans of Mice and Jen. And as always, you can send your questions or topic ideas for future episodes to bestlaidplansofmiceandjen@gmail.com. Until next time, I look forward to discussing more about the Best Laid Plans of Mice and Jen.